Well, hello and welcome to the CAOT TV show. I am one of the co-hosts, Lynn Pender, and I am joined by Leroy McKenzie Jr. Hey, Leroy.
Hey, Lynn. Hey. What's going on?
How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. I cannot complain at all.
Well,
At
I,
all.
I'm so excited to have you co-hosting with me, and we're really honored to have this gentleman waiting in the wing that we're going to talk to today. And it's just been amazing, an amazing journey for the CAOT TV show. We were off the air for maybe about a half of a year, and we started back in August, and this particular show is the first Friday in September. And so it makes 30 days in, and we are moving forward, right? The train is moving, right, Leroy?
Absolutely. Better get on board or get left behind. That's what I always say.
Yes, yes. And I'm really thankful to those of you who have tuned in, who continue to watch us on the WBGR Gospel Network. We air every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 10:30 a.m. If you want to watch us live, you can head on over to Facebook. You would do a Google search for the WBGR Gospel Networks page and find us there. Just look up the CAOT TV show. Or you can find us on YouTube. You can do a search for Christian Authors on Tour or the CAOT TV show. And last but not least, you can always visit our website at www.caotv.com. Whoa, Leroy, you have a lot of things going on. You want to share a little bit with our viewing audience? Look,
Yeah.
I'm just honored to co-host with you, Leroy. I'm honored to co-host.
You gotta. We have to be careful. We don't say be careful, but be mindful of what you ask the Lord for, because
Yes,
you better be ready for what you ask for. Because when He says yes, He says yes.
yes.
I think I just might have to write a poem that when He says yes, He says yes. So, but I mean, it's a great busy. I call it a great busy.
Yes.
I'm just trying to do the work, and when you call yourself the impact chaser, you wind up chasing things. But it's all about making life better, as my pastor says, make life better for someone else, and that's what I try to do with the everything that I do. So it's been doing some great things with some great people, and trying to just get people through this pandemic
Yes.
that we're getting through, that we're trying to get through and everything like that. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been a whirlwind of just doing some things with my business, with clients, and then also different events that I've been privileged to be a part of, and
Yes.
everything like that.
While we're on upcoming events, I have to mention that the month of September, Christian Authors on Tour is relaunching its CAOT Christian Book Club, and I'm really excited. Our featured author for the month of September is Dr. Pamela Ellis, and so you don't want to miss it. You'll have two opportunities, September 23rd as well as September 26th, a Wednesday and a Saturday, to be part of what we're calling an online brown bag lunch session.
Mm.
Your registration fee covers the cost of your book to be shipped to you, an opportunity to interact intimately with the author via Zoom, and to connect with other Christian book lovers. And so really want to encourage you to be part of that. You can give us a call at 800-929-1418 extension 2 to request a book club invite. So Leroy, we have a lot of things going on. We're really excited, right?
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I think it's awesome that we have not allowed, and we couldn't, as Christians,
Yes,
we couldn't allow something as tragic as a pandemic that's going on to
yes,
keep us from moving forward. And as I say, the church can't
yes,
afford to be silent right now, because this is when our voice
absolutely.
should be heard, so that people know that there is a living God that we depend on and that we count on and that we know will carry us through. So
Absolutely. And I have to admit, when this whole pandemic hit, it was scary. It was so
Yeah.
scary for me. And it really forced us, and Leroy, because normally when we do the CAOT TV show, we are in the studio.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and there are other people who are in the studio, but I just, yeah. I said,
Nope.
thank you, Lord, for technology, and we're going to work this technology. And that's the one
Exactly.
thing that this pandemic has taught me. It has taught me, even in my career, I teach GED classes for adults, and it
Right.
has forced me to step it up a little bit in
Mhm.
terms of being able to provide high quality learning experiences, distance learning for my
Right.
adult students. And it's done the same for me in terms of Christian Authors on Tour. Then you're right, at this time, this is not the time for us to be silent. People need to hear the word of
Right.
God, and they need to hear it in creative ways. And so that brings us to this gentleman here, that I'm so
Absolutely.
excited and honored that we have the opportunity to interview. Very dear mentor, and I affectionately call him Coach Carl, and that's what he is, a
I
phenomenal
like that.
executive coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And how appropriate that we, like you said, the great segue into what we're going to be talking about and dealing with,
Yeah.
what we just talked about, but having someone of his caliber, and these are the voices that we need to hear, because they help us to be able to, what I call, navigate that shift. So so I'm gonna introduce him, and we're gonna get into that conversation that we want to get into. And this is for some that may not know, but for others they will get to know, Mr. Carl Sharperson Jr. And I like that. We're juniors, so we both have that in common. He is a leadership innovation strategist, speaker, author, and coach. He specializes in taking leaders from mediocre to maximizing their potential in work and personal life. He is passionate about this message because he understands that most people are working at only 50% capacity due to the lack of clear leadership, development, or job fit. Woo! Yes, indeed. He transforms his audience and coaching clients through his proprietary sharp leadership coaching process, as well as drawing from his unique experiences, the military, corporate America, and entrepreneurship have brought him. He's a graduate of the United States Naval Academy and a former United States Marine Corps pilot with a BS in engineering. He documented those experiences in the book Short Rations for Marines for My Sons and Brothers, and most recently, Sharp Leadership: Overcome Adversity to Lead with Authenticity, which is a life-changing book. I want to welcome Mr. Carl Sharperson. Thank you for joining us on the Christian Authors on Tour TV show.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will we'll start the conversation off, kind of like I usually do, with asking authors, how did you begin writing? What made you want to pick up a pen and start to put pen to paper and say that I have something that I want to say, and I want to say it in a book?
Well, one of the things I was doing was I was starting to do some speaking. And one of the things that people said was, if you have a book, then it opens up opportunities for speaking. Speaking opens opportunities for the book. And 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So as I was going through that process, I started journaling. So I had some stuff on paper, but it was kind of intimidating to be able to make it flow, get it grammatically right, get the book cover and all that other kind of stuff. So it kind of petered out. And then my daughter, who's currently 29, asked me a question. She said, "Dad, are you serious about writing your book?" I says, "Yeah." She says, "If you're committed to writing your book, then I'll pay for the services up through the manuscript, because I found a book coach that I think can help you." So she connected me with a 30-year-old book coach. And the book coach says, write it down, the different chapters you want to do, fill in the blanks, send it to me. I'll ask you some questions. So I went through that process about 4 months. she connected me with a book coach. I had some ideas of what, I'm not a book coach, but the cover designer. So I created that and had some people read it, do some book reviews, as well as a forward. And it was done after about 4 months.
Oh, wow.
It took me 65 years to write it, to create the content, but 4 months to put it on paper.
I like that. I like that.
I know. And I love the fact that your daughter was the inspiration that really got the fire started. And I know that she too is an author. And how does that kind of work? You know, you all are a family of authors. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, she says that I inspired her, so you know. Well, my wife wrote a chapter in an etiquette book about 25 years ago. She was really the first one, and then I wrote my book, and then my daughter had been procrastinating. She finally finished hers, but it's really, so my book is basically about me, so it can be passed down to generation after generation after generation, you know. So, and it's pretty authentic. I mean, it's pretty real.
Wow, I think that's awesome. There's something that you said kind of stuck out to me when you said your daughter asked you if you're serious about writing the book. What was that moment like when she asked you about being serious? And then was that the moment for you that you decided, hey, I know I've got to get serious about writing the book?
Well, she took the barrier away from finding somebody that can help me out. She took all those barriers away. You know, if I said it's going to cost money, that's off the table. If it's somebody to help you, that's off the table. So she took all the barriers away.
No excuses.
Right, that's what I was about to say. I love it. I love it. But isn't that exactly what your book hits on? It talks about leadership. And isn't that such a great example of your daughter taking that leadership to say, hey, Dad, I know you have this in you. So let's figure out how we're going to get it out of you. Can you talk a little bit about some more kind of leadership gems that readers will get when they actually read your book?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 things that are kind of the core principles of the book, which are really of my life. The first one is quitters never win and winners never quit. So when I was in the 9th grade and I went out for football for the first time, and my time period of life is about the same time as the movie called Remember the Titans. My experiences were very similar. My high school head coach was white, the assistant coach was black. So I moved from Washington, D.C., all African-American environment to Spotsylvania, Virginia, integrating the school. So it was pretty tough getting called names and things like that. But I went out for football. My coach gave a talk that I'll never forget. He said, you got your pads today, you can turn them in, no harm, no foul. But if you come back tomorrow and practice, I need you to stay until the end of the season, because quitters never win and winners never quit. He said, if you quit my football team, you might quit school. Quit school and get married, you might quit your spouse. Have kids, you might quit your kids, because once you quit the first time, it's easy to quit the next time. So that's one of the bedrock principles in the book. Another one is to always take care of your people. Always take care of your people, which is one of the principles in the Marine Corps. If you take care of your people will take care of you. If you don't take care of your people won't take care of you. Another key principle is always telling the truth. At the Naval Academy, when the plebe or the freshman year process is almost like a boot camp, and they ask you a bunch of questions, and I don't care how smart you are, how strong you are, at some point in time, you're going to come up on a question that you can't answer. And there's 4 responses that you could make. One is, yes, sir, no, sir, no excuse, sir, or I'll find out, sir. So, so you can't make excuses, it's somebody else's fault or anything like that. So when they ask you that question and you can't answer it, then there are consequences to pay. And that's the way life is. Sometimes when you tell the truth, something's going to happen to you, but how important is the truth? So being able to always do that and working with people in all different types of environments. We're talking union, non-union, sales, engineering, operations, manufacturing, retail. They always want to know the truth. You know, because I believe that 80% of the leaders don't do what they say they're going to do, and they don't tell the truth, right? So those are some bedrock principles that I have. And the other one is I call it the 3 F's: faith, family, and friends. When I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I ran through all my long-term savings, short-term savings, and basically exhausted all of our resources. So I had to pray to God and say, what am I going to do? So one of the things I did was I contacted some of my Naval Academy classmates, and they financially supported me for an entire year because of the relationships that I had had and created with them. So it's all about relationships. It's about relationships with God, number one, relationships with peers, and relationships with your people. You can have all the money in the world, you can have all the stuff in the world, but if you have solid relationships, you can be in a pandemic, lose your job, you know, lose your money and all some kind of stuff, and you can build it up. But if you don't have that, you can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said that relationships are resources. They really are. I've come to find that out and have learned that from from my mentors that I've had. That's one of the things that they've said, and just one of the things that I've observed is when you cultivate and you nurture those relationships that you have, you don't you find out that the true relationships that you have, they become resources to you. Because it reminds me just of the documentary that I watched of it's called the Black Godfather, the Black Godfather, about Clarence Avant. One of the things that he said in that documentary, he said, "I don't have friends, I have resources." And I was just like, man, that's a powerful statement. But talking about leadership, I want you to what do you want? Let's do this one. What do you want the reader to come away with after they've read the book? What is it that you want them to come away with after reading your book?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. And one of the things I feel passionate about it, and I call it book number 67. After you read the first 66 books, then you read Sharp Leadership, which is book number 67. But what I want people to walk away with is it's not over until God says it's over. So the past is the past. So the way I've always lived my life is things would happen, I would do some things, and I learned from it, right? So it's basically my take on how to navigate America as an African-American man. But it's good for anybody, because a lot of the tips in there, if you've ever been marginalized, and there's a lot of groups that have been marginalized. Matter of fact, what I found out through my different speaking engagements is everybody's been bullied at least one time in their life. You're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too black, you're too white, too smart,
too short,
too short, too tall. Everybody's been bullied. So that resonates. And I talk about that in my book, how you deal with that, right? Everybody's had at least one bad boss if they've been in the workplace at any length of time, right? People that have lost jobs, and everybody's had a physical crisis and or had a family member with a physical crisis and or death. So all those elements in there, somebody can resonate with it. And it's my take on what do you do? It's solutions. So you can do what you want to do, but it's an opportunity to maybe take a step and do what I did. And it's really, when you think about it, what is a testimony? A testimony is a test, and we all grow from testimony. So it's basically my testimony with a lot of different examples.
I love that. A testimony is a test. I love it. I love it. And sometimes we don't always pass the test, right, Coach?
That's right. And it's little test, little testimony. Big test, big testimony. Which one do you want?
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I know that our viewers are wondering, how can they get a copy of the book? So I want you to talk a little bit about, how people can purchase the book, and if they wanted to invite you out as a speaker, how might they do that?
Oh, that's easy. If you just Google my name, my website will pop up, my book will pop up, probably some other stuff will pop up. So if you forget everything else and you can remember my name, Carl Sharperson Jr., it'll pop up. But I have a website. You can order it on my website and get you a written copy or a signed copy. And it's www.carl, CARLSharpersonJR.com. Okay, that's one way of getting it. It's on Amazon and it's on Barnes and Nobles. So it's a lot of different ways to get it. I call it a manual for overcoming adversity in any environment, in any stage of life. I had a 17-year Marine Corps veteran, got out of the Marine Corps with post-traumatic stress disorder. He read my book. He became a substance abuser. He became a homeless. And now he runs a shelter for homeless veterans.
Wow.
He said my book is the first book he ever read from cover to cover in his life. But the other thing that he told me, which really blew me away, was this is a white gentleman. He said, I got a snippet of what it's like to live in America as a Black man. I had a 90-year-old Naval Academy graduate who was in the Navy for 25 years, taught in college for 15 years. He read my book, and then he bought 10, 4 for his sons and 6 for his grandson. So it's generational. 10-year-old to 99-year-olds have read my book and gotten value out of it. So it's for everybody.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Now, what advice would you give to an aspiring author and someone who wants to be that younger you, or that decided to go ahead and write their book? What advice would you give to them?
The first one I would be is the thing that I think is the most important thing about writing a book. Now, this is me, and that might be different in fiction, but for a nonfiction book, it's about really telling you a story. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And there's a lot of value in the story. So when you write the book, you got to feel confident that a lot of times you write a book just for therapy, just to get it on paper. Some people do that, Some people do it to change people's lives. Some people do it for a combination. Some people do it just to make money and kind of put in what they think people want to see. Some people want to just make people laugh, So, but whatever it is that you want to do, just plan on doing it and make it happen. I would say start journaling and just start writing stuff down, even if it's not the right time. So then when it becomes the right time, you've got the content. Because my book, I didn't do I did a little bit of journaling, but most of it was just memory of what I remember as growing up. Fortunately, my memory, I think, is pretty good. But I'm sure there's some details in there that I forgot. Or matter of fact, I can remember my daughter read my book, and they said, I don't remember that. And I read my daughter's book, and I said, I don't remember that either. I don't remember this. I don't remember that happening in the family. So everybody has a different take on things that are written and believed.
Absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to say is you can take the book and it's an easy read, but it's got a lot of nuggets in it. So you can take this book and help you navigate growing up in high school, college, corporate America, loss of job, family crisis with health. How do you learn from the best? How do you get mentors? How do you how do you deal with being invisible sometimes when people don't recognize that you're there? There are different things that I've done, primarily because of what people told me to do and trial and error. So with that combination, you can really, really do some things just with the book. But I also do consulting, I do executive coaching, I do team building, I do strategic planning. So I'll give you this quick example with a person that was very successful. So there was a lady, a good friend of mine had a daughter who was 40 years old. And she was a Air Force officer, and then she also had another job. So she was a reservist in the Air Force, and she also had a government job. 2 kids, one 7 and one 9. Husband was a salesperson. And my friend called me and said, Liz, which is the person's name, is I think she's over her head and she's not communicating. So I said, and I hadn't talked to her in a while. I said, well, let me call her. So I called her and contacted her. We went into conversation for maybe 5 minutes, and she said, Carl, why did you call me? How did you know to call me? I said, well, I talked to your dad, right? So this is the story. So she says, I needed somebody to talk to, and it was right on time. But this is her situation. Again, very, very successful. Pandemic hits, And the first thing that happens is the 7-year-old and the 5-year-old come home to get schooled, right? And as well as she comes home to do work. So she's working, the kids are there, and she's isolated. That combination had her in a situation where she was about to pull her hair out. She says, I don't have any time for myself. I mean, she even told me, she says, Carl, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but if I knew that having kids was going to be like this, I would have rethought having kids or how many I had. Right? So what I did was I helped her prioritize, and she had a boss that was a tyrant. She had all kinds of stuff going on. But we prioritized what was important, put together a plan, took that stress away. I asked her, I said, what are the 2 things, most important things you want to do? She said, what I want to do is I want to move back to South Carolina where my parents live so I can get some help. And I want to work someplace different, do a different job. And I want to actually start up my own business. So we put together a plan for that. And, but that's an example of how I can help people by basically finding out what the issues are, putting together a plan, and helping them execute the plan. Now, something else I talk about in my book, I talk about significant emotional events. A significant emotional event is an event that will rock your world. Your life will never be the same once you have one of these significant emotional events. Example, loss of job, divorce, death of a loved one, or something like that, right? So when that happens, it really, really rocks your world. So the pandemic is a significant emotional event on steroids. You're talking multiple things at the same time: loss of job, loss of income, loss of home,
yes,
loss of family member, right? So I talk about that also in my book.
And that's on top of everything else that we were dealing with. The pandemic was just kind of like the last thing that kind of got thrown on to that. So
Exactly.
I think that's what's next for you? Well, do you have anything that you're working on now?
I do not. If I was going to write a book, a lot of people ask me, are you going to write another book, or when am I going to write it? I would say, if I was going to write another book, it would be about my children. But I don't have a plan to write one. My goal and role in life now is to get it in the hands of as many people as possible, because I do believe that it is a life-changing book. I had a pastor use it as a Bible study, right? I've had CEOs purchase it and give it to their direct reports. Mm-hmm. So it's just a lot of applications to it.
Yes. And, we're coming into the end of our time, but, this is just so timely, and that whole theme of leadership and, not just any type of leadership, but, when we talk about that word sharp, we're talking about really honing in on the most effective form of leadership. And so your book is just so timely right now. And so I just want to thank you for your obedience in terms of getting this book out.
And just like Lynn said, for such a time as this, it's a great book. When you think about what's going on in the streets, in the political arena, and it's a very timely, easy to read, powerful book with a lot of nuggets.
All right. And so that's a wrap for us. Want to thank you, Coach Carl, for joining us on the CAOT TV show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And Leroy, it's always a pleasure. I'm so excited to be co-hosting with you again.
It is so much fun, and this is just awesome. And what a powerful way to kind of have these type of individuals to come on to be able to talk about the importance of leadership and every other topic that we kind of discuss, and shine the light on these things that are impacting the world. So I love it. I love it. I love it.
And we hope you love it too. Want to encourage you to continue watching the CAOT TV show. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 on the WBGR Gospel Network. Until next time, God bless.